To ensure an orderly meeting, I'd like to outline some rules that have now become quite familiar to all of you. Members and witnesses may speak in the official language of their choice. Interpretation services are available for this meeting. You have the choice at the bottom of your screen of either Floor, English, or French. I understand we have some witnesses appearing. We have some members participating in person. So just proceed as you normally would when the whole committee is meeting in person in the committee room. Keep in mind the health protocols from the Board of Internal Economy. Before speaking, please wait until I recognize you by name. If you're on the video conference, Madam Minister, please click on the microphone icon to unmute yourself. For those in the room, your microphone will be controlled as normal by the highly dedicated, highly trained professionals employed by the House of Commons that are there to support us. A reminder that all comments by members should be addressed to the chair. When you're not speaking, your mic should be on mute. With regards to the speakers list, we have we'll do our best between the people in the room and the people that are online, between myself and the clerk, to keep that coordinated and consolidated. I would now like to welcome our witnesses, the Honourable Carla Qualtrough, Minister of Employment, Workforce Development and Disability Inclusion, Graham Flack, Deputy Minister, Employment and Social Development, Mark Perlman, Chief Financial Officer, Employment and Social Development, and Benoit Robidoux, Assistant Deputy Minister, Employment and Social Development. Minister Qualtrough, you have 5 minutes for your opening remarks. Welcome to the committee. You have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just confirming you can hear me?
We can hear you just fine.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Chair and committee members, for inviting us to join you here today. As was said, I'm accompanied by ESDC Deputy Minister Graham Flack, Associate Deputy Minister Benoit Robidoux, and Chief Financial Officer Mark Perlman. I'm here today to speak to the main estimates for 2020-2021, which represent a total of $68.6 billion in planned budgetary expenditures. This is a net increase of $3.8 billion over the 2019-2020 main estimates. This is primarily due to an increase to old age security pension and guaranteed income supplement payments resulting from the planned increase in the average monthly benefit amount and changes in the number of beneficiaries. These main estimates include funding for seniors' pensions, learning and skills development, apprenticeship programming, and transfers to provinces and territories. This is money that is spent to assist students afford higher education, youth gain valuable work experience, afford workers with apprenticeship opportunities, and provide basic income security to seniors. Officials and I are happy to speak in more details to these main estimates. Mr. Chair, since March 2020, our world has completely changed, but our government's priorities, supporting Canadian workers, investing in youth, and helping people overcome barriers to training and working, remain the same. Since March 2020, we've also had Supplementary Estimates A, which was debated in the House in June, and Supplementary Estimates B. Mr. Chair, I'll make 2 specific notes related to the Supplementary Estimates. First, the Canada Student Grant Program. Supplementary Estimates A showed $912 million to reflect the total funding that could have been allocated for the CSSG. Given the cancellation of this program, this total has been adjusted and Supplementary Estimates B is at $0. And I note that all monies have been recovered. Second, Supplementary Estimates B shows an additional $28.5 billion in CERB payments under statutory authorities. This brings the proposed authorities for the CERB to $88.5 billion, which is for the full 28 weeks of the CERB. This helped almost 9 million Canadians during a very difficult period. I'll conclude by highlighting the extraordinary measures we've taken to support workers, youth, and persons with disabilities during the COVID-19 pandemic. When the pandemic first shuttered our economy in March, we moved very quickly to support Canadians. This began with a moratorium on student loan repayments, the Canada Emergency Response Benefit, and the Canada Emergency Student Benefit. We also created thousands of jobs and training opportunities for youth and provided a one-time payment for persons with disabilities. As of last Friday, payments were made to more than 1,642,000 persons with disabilities to help with additional expenses incurred due to COVID-19. As the CERB was coming to an end, we made changes to the EI system so that more people could access benefits, including regular and special benefits. The EI system is currently the best tool at our disposal to support Canadian workers in this transition from emergency to recovery. Features like working while on claim, access to training, and work sharing provide incentives to work and help keep people connected to the labor market. For Canadians who still don't qualify for EI, we introduced a complementary new suite of benefits, the Canada Recovery Benefit, the Canada Recovery Sickness Benefit, and the Canada Recovery Caregiving Benefit. The Canada Recovery Benefit, just like EI, has a requirement that people must be looking for work and built-in integrity measures for the application process. Together, these new measures are helping millions of Canadians in this challenging time. Mr. Chair, the appropriations requested in both these main estimates and supplementary estimates A and B would allow us to continue to support Canadians during the pandemic and beyond. And I would now be pleased to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you very much, Minister. We're going to start with the Conservatives. Mr. Kent, please, for 6 minutes.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Minister, and to your Deputy Minister Flack and the other officials for attending with us today. And I agree that discussion and examination of the mains tabled in February is something through the looking glass, given all that has happened since March and the many billions of dollars spent. I'd like to start by asking you first, can you tell us how many of the 25,000 employees of the department, including those who work under Service Canada, have now returned to work or are working productively from home?
Well, thank you, Mr. Kent. That was certainly, I apologize, Mr. Chair. That was certainly a main priority for us as we moved to both support Canadians, was to make sure that our employees were safe, could work from home, could be productive, and attend to their own individual circumstances while still doing their jobs. Graham, can you give us the employee details, please?
Yeah, we are literally in a state where I would say all of our employees are working productively. They might argue too productively, given the pressures that have been put on the department. So there are individuals, for example, in the passport office area that would have seen a decline in work have been reassigned to areas like EI. So everyone is productively working. In terms of those in the office, it really varies. Where we can socially distance safely, the Service Canada centers have reopened. And so we're back to not full occupancy, but socially safe occupancy. So I'd say in our highest offices and our processing centers, there'd be up to 25% of employees who would be physically present in the office. But at our headquarters, our large building here, our occupancy is about 3%. So that has necessitated a massive investment in our network. Just to give you a sense, Mr. Kent, pre-crisis, we would have had on any given day 400 employees working remotely. We average over 25,000 every day now.
Okay, thank you. Minister, you mentioned the SUPS-B and the $28.5 billion in new government spending over the rest of the year for CERB, which actually terminated at the end of September. I wonder if you could explain how those funds are being spent or were spent.
Well, thank you, and I'll get Mark to give the more granular details, but we had originally invested approximately $60 billion in the CERB through SUPS-A, and we added an additional $28 billion through SUPS-B, both because we were further along in the calendar year, in the months that were covered, and also because we added an additional 4 weeks. Mark, can you add some further detail?
Yes, Minister. So in supplementary estimates day, we provided the estimate of what it was, of what we were expecting to spend. Because it was statutory, it's for information purposes only. For supplementary estimates B, what we did was we brought it up by the $28.5 billion to get us to the funded amount. This is an up to amount. It is based on what we are projecting to spend. As of September 30th, we spent just over $77 billion. We were projecting spending another 3.3 in the schedule that came in in the C4 schedule. So this is an up to amount, and it's whatever we're planning to spend. The other element is people still have the ability to apply for the CERB up until December 2nd. So this is, and go retroactive to that period. So this is to be able to cover that amount.
Thank you. Minister, on the weekend, and thank you for following up to the question I asked you last Thursday. You informed me on the weekend that issuance of the notices of debt were to resume this week to both lawyers who are holding severance packages in trust until back payment of EI claimed, and the same to employers. Can you tell me, have those notices going out, and how are they being circulated?
Well, thanks for the question. It was really important for me to get you further details. So as you said, as part of our efforts to support Canadians during the pandemic, in March we actually put a pause on collection activities for all ESDC debts until the end of September. So this meant that notices of debt were not being issued. As we transitioned back to a different EI, a simplified EI system, we actually resumed issuing these debt notices on November 1st. But the big caveat, as I explained, was all debts will be removed from collection activities until February 2021. Graham or Benoit, maybe, could you explain the actual process of issuing these notices, like how they're actually delivered?
Minister, I believe it's through email communication principally, where we have that with employees or with the individuals, but also through letters. And the letter does make clear that the individual can work out a sort of payment schedule with us where they owe the resources. So I would say it's softly written in a way that's designed to be flexible, given that the context that we're in.
Thank you, Mr. Flack. Thank you, Mr. Kent. Next, we're going to go to Mr. Dong, please, for 6 minutes. You're on mute there, Mr. Dong.
There we go.
That's better.
Sorry about that, Chair.
Right.
Now, I want to welcome the Minister for joining us this afternoon, as well the Deputy Minister, Clark Flack. And my questions are two parts. The first part has to do with the Canada Recovery Benefit. There are a number of items in the supplementary estimate that address the various support for people facing economic hardship as a result of COVID-19 pandemic. Now that CERB has ended, Canadians have migrated to a simplified EI program and the Canada Recovery Benefit. Could you explain how these two initiatives tie into our government's larger economic recovery strategy and the changes to the EI program, as well in what way these initiatives are better suited to recovery than CERB?
Wow. Well, thank you for the question. Lots to unpack there. When we put the CERB in place, it was really at a time when we asked people to stay home and not go to work. We effectively shut down the economy in the interest of public health. We weren't able at that time to use the EI system to deliver as quickly as we wanted to, or to as many people as we wanted to help. Public servants have been working nonstop to get the system ready to transition unemployed workers back to EI. As I said, it's the best system we have and has robust integrity measures and work incentives. We made the eligibility criteria for EI more flexible. We set a uniform unemployment rate across the country with set standard eligibility criteria. We gave workers hours of credit, and we set the minimum EI weekly amount at $500. But we also wanted to continue helping workers who still didn't qualify for EI, like gig workers or self-employed. And we recognized that many workers would continue to have ongoing caring responsibilities, and we wanted to support workers who were sick or had to self-isolate because of COVID. And we wanted a longer runway for Canadians to provide certainty for the next year in terms of the benefits that they could access. So Canadians know that these benefits are available to them should there be outbreaks or waves like the one we're experiencing now. We also wanted to ensure equity between EI and the new recovery benefits. So, for example, the minimum number of EI weeks is the maximum number of the CRB weeks. The minimum EI weekly benefit is the amount of the CRB. And we wanted to address concerns raised over disincentivizing work. Basically, we want to send the clear message that there's an expectation to work if you're able and if it's available, but that if you're not, or if you don't have a job, we want to make sure that we have your backs as well.
That's great. Thank you, Minister. My second question has to do with supports for students. I know our government, in response to COVID-19 pandemic, has introduced the Canada Emergency Student Benefit to provide direct income assistance to students. I know in my riding, Seneca College, for example, I know the students there from there were counting on these type of income during the summer to pay for their expense, their rent, or their tuition normally in the fall. So that CESB was very, very helpful in terms of providing that support. But can you also discuss the packages or measures that other than CESB that the government provided to support students, and if there's anything else that you would like to include, or you would like to tell the committee about support for students?
Well, thank you. So we have invested $8 billion in measures to support students, which included, of course, the CESB at $1,250 a month or $2,000 a month for students with dependents and disabilities. But we also made investments in job creation and investments that allowed students to continue their studies. So this included things like expanding employment, skills development, and youth programming, including thousands of jobs, as I said, through Canada Summer Jobs, the Student Work Placement Program, Support for Students Learning Program. And then we immediately put a temporary moratorium on student loan payments and doubled the Canada Student Grant and enhanced the Canada Student Loan Program. All of this was an effort to provide a wholesome package of measures for our students and young people.
That's great. How much time I have left, Chair?
Just under a minute for the question and answer.
Okay, just quickly on the Canada Recovery Sickness Benefit. I know why this program was designed, but I want to hear from the Minister that how this program in particular, how it supported Canadians during the pandemic.
Well, thanks. I'll be super quick. So, as you know, the sickness benefit was legislated with all party support, and I thank everyone for that. It's two times 1 week at $500 a week to ensure that people maybe just to make the choice to stay home or self-isolate a little bit easier for them. We've already had about 123,000 Canadians access this benefit, and really it's a game changer in terms of our public health goals and just economic stability.
Yeah, it was very much
needed. Minister.
Thank you.
And thank you, Mr. Dong. Suite, c'est le tour de Madame Chabot. Vous avez la parole pour 6 minutes.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Bonjour, Madame la Ministre.
Hello, Minister. Thank you for being with us. My first question regards measures for Canadians living with a disability. We know that there was a one-time payment up to $600 per person. However, many citizens, at least in my riding and in my party, indicated to us that they were not eligible because they had never asked for the certificate for the disability. And we saw the gap between the number of people who were able to receive that credit or that benefit and the number of people who wanted to apply. We know that the eligibility period was stretched until December 31st. Have you made estimates with the department to determine how many people with a disability have still not received this benefit?
Question, and I don't know if there's anybody more frustrated than me at our inability to help more Canadians with disabilities. Quite frankly, we are very excited to have helped 1.6 million Canadians and hope to help many more by extending the eligibility period for the DTC till the end of December. But we also know the rate of disability in this country is significantly higher. As I've been very honest with Canadians, up until this point, we don't have at our disposal as a federal government a way to deliver directly to everyone with a disability, and we are planning to make sure this never happens again by modernizing and updating and making more inclusive our eligibility criteria. Quite frankly, disability policy has been largely driven by tax policy historically, and we need to change that, and our citizens deserve it. I don't know, Benoit or Graham, if you have any specific numbers of how many people, but through the DTC, through the VAC programming, through CPP disability, I believe our estimates were 1.8 million, but please correct me if I got that wrong.
Oui, ministre, juste pour...
Yes, Minister. And it was following requests by groups representing people with a disability that we did act. It is quite challenging to know exactly how many people will take advantage of the funds. We want for 100% of people who are eligible to apply. And with all of the other new benefits that we have, it is quite difficult to predict the potential number of people. A shorter question on the same topic. We know that unfortunately the pandemic is stretching on. Have you planned in these budgets for a second amount of support? Thank you for the question. We have not made a decision, but we are certainly aware that that expenses are higher for people with a disability, so we will continue to have that conversation. Question. Now, on employment insurance, I've already spoken to this in the House, and I think that the measures taken regarding employment insurance, particularly the new recovery measures, were very welcome to strengthen the Social Security net. There were estimates of the number of people that could benefit from the modified employment insurance, and there was an estimate of the number of people that could avail of the New Canada Recovery Benefit. Are those estimates still accurate? We are still seeing job losses, and we can expect job losses for the coming months. So have the forecasts changed regarding those programs? That is another excellent question. We estimated that there would be approximately 3 million people who would have access to EI. To date, 1.6 million people who have accessed it. For other benefits, it's about another 1.2 million people, so approximately 3 million people. It's between 3 and 4 million that we originally estimated for the lower possibility, but we continue to have more applications. Grant, do you have any other details? I'd just like to specify that the calculations we made were for the worst case scenario. Because trying to add 2 to 3 million people over a couple of weeks for an EI program is not normal. Usually we enter those people over 1 year. So we prepared for the worst. And to date, a significant number of Canadians have transferred over to the modified program. We believe that the economic situation is more favorable than we had anticipated. Regarding the new benefits, the numbers are more or less at the level that we had anticipated. And currently, we are analyzing what the reason for any discrepancy might be. The first reason is that the economic outcome is not as serious as we had thought it might be. Thank you, Mr. Chabot and Mr. Flack. Next, it is Ms. Gazan's turn.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I'd like to welcome the Minister to our meeting today. My first question relates to the fact that we know that throughout the pandemic, there's been several groups that have been totally left behind. One group in particular has been the disability community, who had to wait until National Accessibility Week at the end of May to get any sort of response from your government. Totally unacceptable. In addition, they had to wait until just last week, over 7 months after the pandemic was declared, to declare a one-time $600 tax credit, which in fact only 40 persons with disabilities were able to access due to serious issues with the disability tax credit. Tax credits and saving plans for disabled persons are simply not good enough, and we've certainly witnessed that. And the failures of this federal government to support disabled people during the pandemic should prompt a sweeping review of federal disability programs and policies in order to support disabled people who are made most vulnerable through the holes in the federal social safety net, as you have acknowledged, Minister, today. So prior to the pandemic, people in the disability community have been pushing for a guaranteed livable basic income in addition to the supports we currently have and will have in the future. Is your government open to bolstering income security programs to ensure disabled persons can live with human rights and not legislated poverty, as affirmed in our Canadian Charter? And if you are open to that, what sort of changes would you make to bolster our social security programs?
Well, I thank the member for your questions, and I feel I need to correct you slightly. By the beginning of April, we had taken a number of measures to ensure that our pandemic response was disability inclusive, including appointing the COVID Disability Advisory Group to make sure that, we had lived experience, real-time perspectives on what was going on the ground. That group was invaluable in terms of giving us advice on our public health measures, on our community support initiatives, and on a number of really important steps we took as a government. In terms of moving forward, we have learned a big lesson from this that many advocates have been pointing out to governments for a long time around our inability to directly deliver Canadians with disabilities the supports they need. And that's why in the speech from the throne, we committed to the creation of the Canada Disability Benefit, which is modeled after the GIS, which will be a direct income support to Canadians with disabilities. But underlying that will be a significant eligibility reform in terms of how Canadians qualify for our benefits. Again, I said it's unacceptable that tax credits are the kind of gatekeeping function, if you will, to get access to many of our programs and services, and we're going to change that. I will also correct the member and say that it was a one-time direct payment that 1.6 million people got, so they did get $600 in their bank accounts. And again, I know it was way overdue, but I can assure you it wasn't for lack of trying on behalf of public servants who had to create a brand new delivery delivery mechanism to do it.
With all due respect, Minister, you're actually not correcting me. You're actually correcting disability advocates throughout the country who have informed my question today. My second question, Minister, is about changes to the EI system that are completely insufficient. According to the Canadian Centre for Policy Alternatives, they reported that 776,000 Canadians who access the CERB are now ineligible for any further federal support, and these are predominantly low-wage part-time workers and low-paid self-employed workers. Beyond this, many Canadians do not fit into our current EI programs. People with complex mental health issues and trauma who are unable to, for example, hold down a full-time job, or people who have not worked or are living rough. And that certainly is very, very common in my riding. We know that the best deterrent for COVID-19 is frequent hand washing and being housed. That requires having a home. So not only are the income support programs currently being offered by your government inadequate in allowing people to follow basic health and safety guidelines set out by Health Canada, we are also seeing a rise of first-time homelessness. As the pandemic persists, the failure of your government to not properly invest in these basic human rights, as we are obliged to do as members of Parliament, and as stipulated in our charter, is placing Canadians further at risk. Knowing all of this, why is there nothing in the estimates to address those being left out of the EI system before this crisis gets worse?
Well, thank you again for your question. When we added additional flexibilities to the EI system coming into the end of September, it was with the goal to get as many workers as possible in, to give them supports, access to training, working well on claim, all the benefits that that system, as clunky as it is, has to offer. We created the recovery benefit, sickness benefit, and caregiving benefit, knowing that we wanted to support workers who weren't captured, even with those flexibilities. As a longer-term measure, our government is absolutely supportive and aims to overhaul the EI system, I'd say, and try to make it reflect more how Canadians work today. Certainly it was tough in March to not be able to use the system to help as many people as we wanted to. In terms of the housing piece, I know Minister Hussein is appearing next, so I know he'd be happy to give you more information on that. I don't think I could do it justice. But I hear you in terms of the need for income support for all Canadians, and between the Canada Child Benefit, the Old Age Security and GIS, and now our new disability support benefit, I'm hoping that we are getting there.
Thank you, Minister, and thank you, Ms. Gazan.
Thank you.
Next, we're going to go to Ms. Falk, please, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Minister, for being here. Just in your notes, you referred to the net increase of $3.8 billion over the 2019-20 main estimates. So I'm just wondering if this is a net increase for OAS is a reflection of indexed inflation, or is it a reflection of expected changes to the program schedule?
I will ask, pardon me, thank you. I'll ask Mark to answer that detail.
My apologies that had trouble finding my mute button. It's based on all the projections of our aging population and all of the indexing that has been given to us by the actuaries. So it is to keep up with the trends of our population.
Okay, thank you. And I think everybody around this virtual table would agree that it's critical that Canadians have access to their benefits in a timely and an efficient manner. And we do know with COVID-19 that this stability is all that more important. The departmental plan mentions that the department is undergoing changes to how it delivers services to Canadians. Among these changes is moving OAS benefits to the CPP IT platform. So I'd like to discuss just the service standards, particularly as it pertains to these programs. I know that I recently had a seniors case brought to my attention where Service Canada had informed them that it could take 4 months to process their CPP application and another 8 months, and that's about 240 days for their decision on their OAS application. 120 days is the timeline posted for mailed-in applications and applications received at Service Canada for CPP. So let's also keep in mind that many, if not all, Service Canada locations had been closed for a long duration of time during this pandemic, and many rural Canadians do not have access to rural broadband and either need to mail an application in or need to attend a Service Canada office. So it would be my expectation that shortening that timeline is a goal for the department. What funds, if any, are dedicated to improving service standards for Canadians?
Thank you for that question. Super specific, so I'll turn to officials.
So Mark, I'll get you to speak to the specific allocation we've got, but indeed we have sought additional funds to address some of the service standard issues that are part of what we've had forward. I guess what I'd say to the member's question, the department pre-crisis, 100% of the processing work would have been done in processing centers. We would have 0% of people working from home. We're not structured to be able to allow people to work from home. So you are right that we did experience an interruption in the crisis as a result of the fact that we had to almost instantly equip and secure the ability of individuals to work at home. And that did result in a reduction in service standards. So in the area where I could point to where we've had real success is in the EI area. Our service standard is we would pay 14 days after eligibility, 80% of the time. With the new people that have come on EI, we've had about 90% that have been paid within a couple days of eligibility, and 96% have been paid within 14 days of their eligibility. So we're greatly exceeding the service standards, but the ambition you've laid out for much faster service standards is why we are investing not only in the new systems that will allow us to do that more efficiently, but in additional people that will be hired in the department to improve the standards. But I would say overall, the service standards for the department, when you consider we had to displace the entire workforce to home and work from there, they have come back pretty well, and we are trying to make improvements on that. But I thank you for drawing it to our attention.
So is there
35 seconds for your question and answer there, Ms. Falk. Go ahead.
Yeah, I guess my question was funds. What are the funds that are dedicated? I didn't hear a number.
So there's a $105 million in OAS improvement, service improvement, and workload funds is part of the main.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Flack. Thank you, Ms. Falk. Next, we're going to go to Ms. Young, please, for 5 minutes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and through you, thank you, Minister Qualtrough, for appearing today before the committee. As you know, persons with disabilities is an issue that I'm very concerned about, and I was honored to serve as your parliamentary secretary for a time, and was very happy to be able to work with you on that file. Now, we heard in the throne speech, and you made mention about the Canadian disability benefit, but we also heard about a robust employment strategy for Canadians with disabilities. And I spoke with one of my constituents who is disabled and really worried about finding a job after COVID. It's hard enough before COVID for people with disabilities to get that job. Now it's going to be even harder. So what does the government mean by a robust employment strategy?
Well, thank you for your question. It's a key component of our disability inclusion plan to address barriers that so many Canadians with disabilities are facing in terms of employment. You know, we know from the Canadian Human Rights Commission that more than 60% of the complaints to the Commission are on the ground of disability, and half of those are in the area of employment. So people are still being discriminated against in hiring, in promotion, and retention, and that has to stop. So we are going to work with the disability community to come up with targeted measures that both support employees. So we've got some really good programs. We're going to beef them up, but also address supports for employers. So education, talking about the business case for inclusion, how your business can benefit from disability inclusion, and also educate Canadians and help to shift the conversation away from a charity model that's often discussed as we have to help these poor people to an inclusion model where we celebrate and highlight the benefits of hiring someone with a disability, of making your business accessible so someone with a disability can shop there. Really, we're going to target on all fronts, employers, employees, businesses, the business community writ large, and really help change the conversation around employment for people with disabilities.
And Minister, you at the beginning of the pandemic, you launched the Disability Advisory Group, which I'm told has really helped you and given you invaluable advice. on the lived experiences of persons with disabilities and has shaped the way you've moved forward. But what have you learned from all of this? What are your big takeaways as far as people with disabilities and what we should be doing as a government to make sure that they do not fall through the cracks as they have in the past?
Thanks for that question. It's something that keeps me up at night. You know, the COVID Disability Advisory Group, as I said, was invaluable. In fact, I met with them 14 times over the period of months, trying to make sure that we were connecting in the spirit of nothing without us with the community on the ground. They advised Health Canada. They advised the Minister of Communities. They really had tentacles into our entire pandemic response. Lesson learned, the big one, as I said, is we really don't have, as much as we wanted to get direct support out quickly to our citizens with disabilities, we don't actually have a way to identify or directly pay all of our citizens with disabilities. Disability supports fall under provincial jurisdiction historically, and we know that we need to do better as a federal government in terms of addressing that. But we have a way to pay families, we have a way to pay seniors, and we have a tax credit, the DTC, that serves, as I said, a gatekeeping function of sorts. But, you know, we also have some programs through VAC and some programs through ASDC with the CPP disability. But really what we need, as I said, and what we're committed to do is really directly identify, directly interact with our citizens with disabilities, not through the tax system, through an eligibility system based on a modern and respectful understanding of disability. And that's what we're going to do. That's certainly what has been called for a long time. And I'm very excited to embark upon that work. We're going to transition the Disability Advisory Group into, I think I'm scooping my own announcement here, into a permanent group. But they're going to keep working with us to make good on all of our promises around disability inclusion.
Thank you, Minister.
Thank you, Minister.
Thank you, Ms. Young. Suite, Madame Chabot pour 2,5 minutes.
Next, Ms. Chabot for 2.5 minutes, please. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to ask a question regarding employment insurance. I think the measures put in place, well, you know, we're going to ask for global reform of the employment insurance program. When it comes to employment insurance, what hypothesis do you have in mind to reconstruct this program? Wow, that's a big question. Yes, I know, it's going to take longer than 2 minutes.
More Canadians who haven't historically had access to EI like we would like. I think of part-time workers. I think of gig workers. I think of precariously employed workers. So how do we build a modern system that, you know, reflects how people work today, not how people worked historically, I think is the starting point of our discussions on EI.
Okay, I have time for another question. When it comes to IT systems, we know there's a problem. We saw information being robbed. We saw problems with the modernness. When it comes to the security of the system, I mean, have you planned for any funds to modernize our IT systems to make them safer, more secure? Thank you for the question. Graham? Yes. The new system that we want to build is provided for in the supplementary estimates. It's called BDM, Business Development Modernization. And this program has certain elements, including a security system that are more robust than those that currently exist. In addition, we are also planning with our internal migration systems to bring them up to date when it comes to cybersecurity. It's always a give and take, because attacks are also evolving, taking new and changing forms. And so we always will have to adjust our systems to respond to those threats. So there never will come a time when we'll say, okay, we're done. The system is secure, because every day people find new ways to attack. So we do have to work from the inside, and there has been money set aside for that will help improve safety. Thank you, Mr. Flack and Ms. Chabot.
Don, please, for 2.5 minutes.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Minister, earlier this summer you stated, in quotes, students face serious challenges as a result of the global pandemic, and these unique circumstances call for unique actions. As a post-secondary educator for almost 20 years, I would criticize your government for having almost complete inaction with students. In fact, I would say that the Liberal government has failed students. First with the WE program, where there was an assumption that students, many who are living in poverty, would be expected to work for under minimum wage in many circumstances. And with that being taken away as a result of the scandal with the Liberal government, to never be replaced with another program, and then zero mention of students in the throne speech. Is problematic. Now, to top it off, the grace period for paying back student loans is now over, and many students were not able to work this summer as a result of the pandemic, forcing them to lose housing or even going back to school because they lack the funds. We know that students are critical to rebuilding Canada's economy, and that requires an educated and financially stable workforce. Minister, why are students continuing to be left out of the discussion for supports that will allow them to be successful in achieving their educational goals?
Well, thank you for the question. In the speech from the throne, we actually committed to significantly scaling up our youth employment and skills strategy to provide more paid work experiences for students, recognizing that historically economic shocks like the one we've currently faced has disproportionately impacted students. Our $8 billion investment of the student benefit, thousands of jobs, doubling the Canada student grants and adding flexibilities to the student loan program has really been well received by the student population. We had 700,000 students receive the CESB, a significant portion of which were got the enhanced $750 a month for students with disabilities or students with dependents. I can assure you that our entire cabinet is committed to ensuring that youth recover and flourish post-pandemic, and specifically the Minister of Youth and I are very determined to make sure that their voices are heard at every step.
Thank you, Minister. Thank you, Ms. Gazan. Colleagues, we are going to suspend now in order to allow for Minister Hussen and team to come in, because we do have a hard stop at 6 o'clock. Minister Qualtrough, we will hope to have you back on SUPS to continue this discussion. But we thank you very much for you and your officials to be here with us today. And we'll see you soon.
My pleasure.
Again.
Take care, and I'll happy to come back anytime.
Thank you. We're suspended while we allow. Minister, Strategic and Service Policy Branch, Janet Goulding, Associate Assistant Deputy Minister, Income Security and Social Development Branch, Cliff Groen, Assistant Deputy Minister, Service Canada, Benefit Delivery Services Branch, Laurie McDonald, Senior Associate Deputy Minister, ESDC, and Chief Operating Officer for Service Canada, Mark Perlman, welcome back, Chief Financial Officer, Employment and Social Development, Evan Siddle, President and CEO, Canada Mortgage and Housing Corporation, Lisa Williams, Chief Financial Officer, Canada Mortgage and Housing Corporation, Minister Hussen, you have the floor.
Point of order, Chair.
Yes, Mr. Kent.
Chair, it's unacceptable that the original 2 hours with ministers and their officials was reduced to 1 hour. We accepted that reluctantly. Today was supposed to have been 1 hour with ministers, 1 hour and their officials separately. We got 45 minutes in the first hour. And I understand that you're going to cut this to perhaps 30 minutes. In booking these arrangements, we have to realize that even with reduced House facilities to enable meetings, and we appreciate all the work that goes into that, it is well known, and it's a protocol that's been accepted, that House votes are held on Mondays and on Wednesdays. So it's I think it's unacceptable that you're going to curtail this hour as you curtailed the first. I think that it's perfectly acceptable for those who have booked this facility for 6:30 that they be delayed as we were.
All right, Mr. Kent, you make an entirely fair point. Our late start was a function of the votes and the time that it took to get everyone set up, and the hard stop that we have at 6 o'clock is because there is another commitment in the room at 6:30, and the COVID protocols require some time in between to change from one meeting to the next. The best I can do, Mr. Kent, is as we go through the question and answer, if we can perhaps have some discussions away from the meeting, if we can have the clerk get on his phone and email to see if we can get the 6:30 meeting pushed back so that we can get a full hour here to get the full 2 rounds. That's about the best. That's the best we can do in these circumstances. You do raise an entirely fair point, and we were unable to get the OGO committee to relent so that we could have that extra time. And I expect those are also that's also the committee that is due in at 6:30. So thank you for raising it. I really wish we could do more. Mr. Minister Hussen, you have 5 minutes for your opening statements. Minister, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Committee members, merci de me voir invité à venir par.
Committee members, thank you for having invited me to speak to you today to the main estimates and the supplementary estimates BEB at Employment and Social Development Canada for 2020-2021. 5 years ago, our government introduced a plan to build up Canada's middle class, to create jobs and help struggling families. I am pleased to say that our plan is working.
With this same determination that we established emergency measures helping Canadians throughout the pandemic. Allow me to provide an overview of the measures implemented under my portfolios. On homelessness and reaching home, la sécurité et le mieux-être.
The safety and wellness of Canadians are our #1 priority.
Support to those at risk of or experiencing homelessness. In the early days of the pandemic, we increased support to the Reaching Home program by injecting $15 million into it so that cities with the largest population of individuals experiencing homelessness could deal with the urgent pressures of the COVID-19 pandemic. This amount of $15 million was followed quickly by an additional $157.5 million to provide additional supports on top of the base amounts as the full impacts of the pandemic grew. This money was also made flexible so that municipalities could use it and community entities could use it for whatever they felt was necessary to combat COVID-19 amongst Canada's homeless population. In September 2020, we announced an additional $236.5 million in an investment to help communities maintain and expand their emergency response to COVID-19 and to provide them with the flexibility to deliver permanent housing solutions for those experiencing homelessness, as well as preventing further inflows into homelessness through the upcoming winter. It is our responsibility as a government to ensure that communities are able to build quickly affordable housing to meet the rising needs. That is why we recently launched the new $1 billion Rapid Housing Initiative. This will help create approximately 3,000 new affordable housing units in cities right across the country. To relieve financial pressures on Canadian homeowners who may have lost income due to COVID-19, Canada Mortgage and Housing Corporation, in coordination with private mortgage insurers, implemented measures early during the pandemic to allow homeowners to temporarily defer payments on insured mortgages. Homeowners have the opportunity to benefit from a temporary short-term deferral or re-amortization of mortgage payments insured through CMHC. On early learning and childcare and supports for parents, for working class families, childcare is a necessity. This pandemic has reinforced the need for parents to be able to access safe and affordable childcare. That is why in July, we announced the Safe Restart Agreement to help provinces and territories access $625 million so that the childcare sector can recover from the COVID-19 pandemic. In addition to that, with the bilateral agreements with provinces and territories, we've also invested an additional $400 million for a total of $1.2 billion to support childcare in 2020-2021. This is a record amount, Mr. Chair. We're committed to working with provinces and territories to make childcare even more accessible and affordable by setting up a Canada-wide early learning and childcare system that is more affordable than ever before. To address the evolving needs of parents during the pandemic, we modified the Canada Child Benefit by sending an additional $300 in May of this year to every child receiving the Canada Child Benefit, and once again, increasing permanently the Canada Child Benefit in July of this year. Charities and nonprofits have also experienced increasing demand during the COVID-19 pandemic for services in communities right across the country at a time when they're facing fewer donations and fewer volunteers. That is why earlier this year, I'm proud of the fact that our government announced that it will be investing $350 million through the Emergency Community Support Fund to support vulnerable Canadians. And I want to report to the committee that the majority of that money has been spent on vulnerable Canadians, and the remaining amount will be dispersed very soon. At the outset of the pandemic, Minister Qualtrough has already spoken about our emergency responses to replace lost employment income by Canadians, the CERB, and the wage subsidy. Nearly $9 million received the much-needed income support to make ends meet when they were not able to work. And now with the Canada Recovery Benefit and the reformed EI, we will make sure that we have the backs of workers. Madame et Messieurs, les membres.
Ladies and gentlemen of the committee, the items stated in the supplementary estimates process today reflect the Government of Canada's priorities and attest to the clear commitment we have made to Canadians.
Financial resources requested will enable us to continue this important work on behalf of Canadians. I would be very pleased, of course, to answer any questions that my fellow members of Parliament have for me. Thank you very much. Merci beaucoup.
Thank you, Minister. We're going to start with the Conservatives. Mr. Schmale, please, for 6 minutes.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Minister, for being here. Minister, I understand the CMHC is being rebranded. Can you tell me how much this is going to cost and the fact that they have a basic monopoly in the marketplace, why they need to do that?
Since this is an internal CMHC issue, I want to turn to the CEO to answer that question.
I'm happy to respond to that. Thank you, Minister, and thank you for the question. No decision has been definitively made to rebrand the company, and in fact, we have not been using public funds for that purpose. We've been using internal resources, no external resources, and it's meant to align with a new strategy that we as a group, we as a company, arrived at with our board last year, and that's that we aim that by 2030, everyone in Canada has a home they can afford and that meets their needs. We wanted a brand that was consistent with that. Sorry.
Oh, I appreciate that, but why? People have you have a near monopoly in the marketplace, so why does it really matter what your name is?
We actually do compete with private sector companies in the insurance space. And just as other public sector entities, museums, EDC, BDC have rebranded themselves, it's an appropriate way to present ourselves to our client base, we believe.
Do you fear you're going to lose business because of a name?
No. Again, I said it's about reinforcing our strategy and the policies and client-driven activities that we are pursuing because of that.
Do you have an update on the first-time home buyer since COVID hit?
I have an update. Sorry, what's the question, sir?
Do you have an update on the numbers in terms of the uptake?
Yeah, and since despite the COVID-19 pandemic, I can tell you that 9,500 applications have been approved, representing about $173 million as of September 2020.
Are you planning to expand this program?
That's a decision for the government, sir.
Minister Hussein?
Yeah, I can take that question. Thank you for the question. As we promised during the last election, we promised Canadians living in the Greater Toronto area, the Greater Vancouver area, and the Victoria region that due to their local circumstances, we will increase the threshold or the high amount of the threshold amount of the first-time homebuyer incentive to take into account their local circumstances. It is a promise that we intend to keep, but we haven't executed yet, but we intend to keep that promise.
Thank you. Chair, can I get a time remaining?
Yes, you've got 3.5 minutes left.
3.5 minutes? Thank you, Chair. Minister, in the main estimates, you're requesting $20.4 million for the social innovation and social finance strategy. Can you tell me what this money is earmarked for exactly?
This is money, I'll let the officials go into details, but essentially what this is meant to do is to support social purpose organizations that are doing really important work to solve complex social problems, so housing, poverty reduction, and so on. And I can give you many examples of the great work that is happening through social purpose organizations right across the country. I've met many of them and seen for myself the work that they do. And so this is a way to support them, to support the system of the social finance world, and to encourage more organizations to consider a social finance model of funding because it's sustainable. And it has a much bigger impact.
So what metrics are you using? Like, who makes this final decision? Or is there a series of criteria? I went on the website. It basically said it was a kind of a free for all. Whatever the government determines is important.
I'll let my officials take that.
Minister, it's Janet. Happy to take that question. And so I believe the question is related to the investment readiness program. It's a pilot program, a 2-year pilot program that the department is running. And the way the program works is we are partnering with a number of intermediaries in the community. So Community Foundations Canada, for example, the Canadian Women's Foundation, the National Aboriginal Capital Corporations Association, as well as the National Association of Friendship Centers, for example. And those organizations are running open calls for proposals to allow social purpose organizations to access funding that allows them to do exactly what the minister alluded to, and that is increase their capacity to both participate in the social finance market as well as to grow their capacity to grow their impact.
Thank you very much for that. I'm sorry, I just want to split my time with Mr. Viss if I could. Sorry, thank you.
Mr. Viss, please.
I'm just going to go with a series of questions with my short amount of time here, and then I'll seek answers. Question number one, how many project applications are in the queue of the National Housing Co-Investment Fund, and when will they be complete? Did the National Co-Investment Fund receive additional funds since the mains were tabled in February? If so, how much? What measures are being taken to ensure that funding is reaching the communities where it is needed the most? What are the guiding principles for the approval process? And are there certain regional or demographic targets as it pertains to the approval of projects? And according to my knowledge, several provinces and territories, Alberta, Newfoundland and Labrador, Nova Scotia, Northwest Territories, Quebec, Saskatchewan, and Yukon had not seen any approved projects under the NHCF as of April 2020. Have any projects been approved in these provinces, territories since that time? If so, where? How many projects have been approved in each jurisdiction? And are any regions of the country being prioritized with regard to the approval of projects under this funding stream? Thank you so much, and I really appreciate your time today.
Mr. Chair, I'll answer the last question first and then defer to Mr. Siddle for the number of projects that are in the pipeline. In terms of the National Housing Strategy Co-Investment Fund, it's an applications-based process. There is absolutely no preference of one region over another. It is basically each project is looked at based on its merits. The one area in the country where we've put set-asides in the co-investment fund to take into account the particular challenges of building affordable housing there is the territories. So in the territories, there is a set-aside amount of money in the co-investment fund set aside for the territories. But beyond that, it's an application-based process, and it is assessed on its own merit. In terms of the number of projects that are in the pipeline for the co-investment fund, I'll turn it over to President Siddle.
Okay, and I'm gonna jump in right there because we're well past time, and I don't think Mr. Viss went right to the line and then ceded the floor. I think what he's expecting and what would be reasonable, Mr. Siddle, if you could provide him, you'll have the transcript of the questions. If you could provide him with provide the committee with the answers in the written form, then we can be a little fairer with the distribution of time.
Very happy to do that.
Thank you. Madame Shepat, oh no, sorry, Mr. Turnbull, please, for 6 minutes.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Minister and everyone, your whole team, it's great to see you and thanks for being here, and I really appreciate all the work that you've been doing. Minister, I want to ask you about the Reaching Home funding. I'm concerned about my constituents and constituents, in fact, across Durham region as winter approaches. People who are homeless or at risk of homelessness are exposed and at risk of the outdoors, but also more so of COVID-19. I've heard from constituents, stakeholders, the region in my riding that the funds that we increased for Reaching Home, I think it was 313% increase, so a significant increase, and that money reached them quite rapidly during COVID-19, which was really helpful. I wondered if you could just give us some additional details on this funding and how we're moving to end chronic homelessness in Canada.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I want to begin by highlighting what the honorable member has said, that initial additional infusion of $157.5 million, the feedback that we got from the community entities, the organizations, and the municipalities was that that money was crucial and instrumental in making sure that folks were protected from COVID-19 pandemic, that the organizations had money to procure extra space for social distancing for individuals experiencing homelessness, that they had the additional flexibility and money to buy PPE, cleaning supplies, and procure all kinds of different necessities. And so that made a huge difference. And that is why we moved ahead with an additional $236.7 million. And these are additional dollars to the base amount, in addition to increasing the number of communities receiving Reaching Home dollars, including Indigenous providers. So it's a program that's working very well. And that is why we renewed the funding to make sure that those communities can get over the winter period. Secondly, and very closely related to that, is the Rapid Housing Initiative. And you've heard from municipal leaders right across the country how this will make a big difference in their own attempts to provide permanent housing solutions to their residents who are experiencing homelessness, whether it is on the West Coast, East Coast, Central Canada, and everywhere. If you talk to the 15 mayors of the first stream, they will tell you that this money will make a big difference. In the second stream, we're waiting to see the number of projects that will come forward to access the second stream of $500 million to either build rapid housing from scratch or obtain existing properties and convert them quickly into housing. Again, this is part of the spectrum. So reaching home, manage to house people temporarily. Rapid housing hopefully will move them to permanent housing. And this, in addition to the regular national housing strategy programs, is working together. And I'll give you an example. I was in Scarborough last week announcing 110 new units as part of the of a modular housing project, which did not come from the Rapid Housing Initiative. They used money in the regular national housing strategy. So these programs are working and complementing each other. And with the addition of the Rapid Housing Initiative, we now are at $56 billion as part of the national housing strategy. So a lot of work has been done. Of course, there's more work to be done as well.
Thank you, Minister. Mr. Chair, do I have any time left? Or? Chair, you're on mute.
You've got a minute and a half.
Okay, great. Minister, I'm going to pivot now. Thank you for that really extensive
answer.
Sorry,
you actually have 2 minutes. Go ahead.
Oh, okay, great. I want to ask you about the Emergency Community Support Fund, because I think that's another essential support for our beloved nonprofit and charitable sector, which, as we all know, and I'm sure you're hearing every day just about how much that sector is struggling. You mentioned in your opening remarks, there's definitely fewer donations. The revenues are down for the charitable sector, but the demand is increasing for their services. And probably also challenging to get volunteers out. So I just think the Emergency Community Support Fund is such an essential support for that sector, and at a time where we really are relying on it much more so. Could you provide us an update on how that work is advancing and whether there's anything else in the pipeline to support the charitable and nonprofit sector?
Yes, so for the Emergency Community Support Fund, the reason we moved ahead on that fund is because we heard from the organizations, the community-based organizations that were providing really important work and delivering important services and food and medicine and other important services to the most vulnerable in our communities. But the same organizations that we rely on to take care of the most vulnerable in our country were themselves facing pressures, whether it is a drop in donations, whether it is a drop in volunteers, but also sometimes facing new costs that they did not have to face before. The member from Spadina, Fort York, told me about an organization in his constituency that used to get free baked goods from this business. Now, because of COVID-19, the business closed, and so suddenly this nonprofit had to buy baked goods. So that is an extra cost that they simply didn't face before. And so the $350 million is meant to target those organizations and reinforce them so that they can not only continue to deliver those important services, but actually reach more people.
Thank you, Minister. Madame Chabot, s'il vous plaît, pour 6 minutes.
Ms. Chabot, you have 6 minutes. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Hello, Mr. Minister. Regarding housing and homelessness, these are extremely important matters that concern Quebec, certainly, and I imagine other parts of Canada. I would like to speak to you in particular about recent programs for rapid construction of housing. If I'm not mistaken, and do please correct me, it is a $1 billion program that aims to be rapid housing initiative, and it should be used before May 2021. My question is, considering this time frame, since this is supposed to be rapid, why wasn't the entire amount made available all at once? Or do you have the intention to free up other funds for this same program in the future?
Monsieur le Président,
Mr. Chair, every Canadian deserves safe and accessible housing. Our government announced the $1 billion amount for the Rapid Housing Initiative in order to create 3,000 new accessible housing units in the country.
What we have done is to ensure that there is two separate streams. The first 15 municipalities, including Montreal and Quebec City, the first 15 municipalities across Canada that have the highest number of individuals experiencing homelessness will receive money as part of the first envelope of $500 million. But there's another $500 million in the project stream, which is available to organizations and other municipalities that have rapid housing projects. And again, when I talk about the rapid housing projects, I mean building rapid housing quickly or buying buildings, buying hotels or motels and converting them quickly into housing. The point is to move people into housing within 12 months.
I would like to ask a follow-up question. Actually, I think I formulated my question poorly. Why did you only budget $250 million, even though this is a $1 billion program? That's where I don't understand. Could you please answer, and then I'll move on to another question regarding money to support Canadians experiencing homelessness. We know that that program mostly wanted to target organizations. Could you explain the criteria to us, please, that guided you to help those organizations get that money?
Very good question on reaching home. The organizations are, there's two types of organizations that we deliver money to. These are frontline organizations serving individuals experiencing homelessness. There's two types. One is the general stream, and then there's also organizations that are Indigenous serving and Indigenous led who serve Indigenous homeless population. So those are the two groups that we funnel money to through the Reaching Home program. And the criteria is simply that they have to demonstrate that A, they're serving a population that is homeless, and B, that they have a demonstrable track record of being able to manage the funds and provide services, including shelter and other supportive services.
Do I have any time left, Mr. Chair? Yes. About 90 seconds. Regarding Service Canada, I wanted to ask another question on that. It was completely closed, but we know that Service Canada offices have partially reopened. Do you have budget money set aside for resources for Service Canada staff so that they can start working full-time again and permanently?
Mr. Chair, I will defer to Ms. Laurie McDonald for this question.
Ms. McDonald? You're on mute there, Ms. McDonald.
Hello. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for the question. At this time, we have actually 285 of our Service Canada centres open out of 317. They are fully staffed at this time. And in fact, we're now able to serve 93% of the Canadian population within 50 kilometers of a Service Canada centre. So we are funded, we are open, and we are serving clients.
Thank you, Ms. McDonald. Merci, Madame Chabot.
Thank you, Ms. Chabot.
Ms. Kwan, please, for 6 minutes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and thank you to the Minister and his officials. My first question is to CMHC, actually. Could the department officials table their assessment of the count of the homeless population for each municipality in the major city stream and any other factors used to determine the severity of housing need in this stream, as well as the distribution of units projected to be built by city based on the regional property costs?
Yes, we can table that information.
Thank you. My second question to you, Mr. Siddle, also. Through my order paper questions, when asked about the co-investment fund and the rental construction financing initiative, the figures the department provided are about funding, quote, commitments. Can the officials confirm for the record that these funding commitments include applications that have a letter of intent but no pending agreement? And could the department also table how much of these funds have so far been transferred to each applicant?
We can table all that information, certainly.
Okay, and can you confirm for me on the record that the funding commitments include applications that have a letter of intent but no pending agreement?
I'm actually not sure that that is true. We will address that question in writing.
All right. The municipalities and NGOs have met with CMHC officials and have told them that the RHI is fraught with concerns. They pointed out that modular housing projects can only be approved on a 10-year basis, yet eligibility rules require 20-year plus option, restricting eligibility to conversion of non-residential buildings, or that if it's a residential building, it has to be in disrepair or abandoned, is hugely problematic, as such projects could easily take anywhere from 1 to 5 years with any rezoning and permitting requirements. They also pointed out that there needs to be a dedicated parallel program led by urban, rural, and northern Indigenous housing providers. So my question to the minister is, will the minister listen to the NGOs and the municipalities and change the eligibility rules?
Well, we have listened. In fact, we consulted extensively with the Federation of Canadian Municipalities, and they're the ones who helped us design this program. So we have listened. We have delivered a program that I believe reflects the wishes of the community in terms of setting up two separate streams. One focusing on where the urgent problem is, the top 15 municipalities that have the highest number of homeless individuals.
Sorry.
Let
me interrupt because my time is limited, Minister. My question is about the specific criteria. Has your officials brought to you the concerns that the city and NGOs raised with respect to what I indicated just now?
I think you indicated a number of criteria.
Sorry, I
wasn't sure which one you're referring to at the moment.
Perhaps I can get Mr. Siddle to answer that question in writing to me so that I can actually get clarity on this issue.
You can do that.
Thank you. On the issue around the throne speech, sorry, actually, I'm just going to go to the National Housing Strategy announced in 2017. It did not include a urban, rural, and northern Indigenous strategy. The 2019 mandate letter that the minister received specifically got a directive to address the urban Indigenous housing strategy. Yet today there's no strategy. Why was it left out of the throne speech, and when will the minister fulfill that mandate?
It is part of my mandate commitment to fashion a national housing strategy that is in line with the needs and the aspirations of Indigenous people in Canada, and it has to be done by them and with them. Of course, it would also mean that we would have to obviously make sure that this is something that is, as I said, is done in partnership. I know the committee is studying this actual issue, and I look forward to their findings as part of a way to input.
Minister, you know, you don't need to wait for the committee to finish this work. This
I didn't
in
say
the
I was
mandate
waiting
for
the
some time.
to do the work.
And, you know, I hope that you actually
that.
will get on with it. The community's been waiting and waiting and waiting. The urban Indigenous community is homeless. Many of them are desperate for action from the government now. So Section 95 of the housing co-ops whose operating agreements expire prior to April 2016 have been excluded from phase 2 of the Federal Community Housing Initiative. As a result, 277 co-ops, 7,500 households in Alberta, BC, Ontario, PEI, and Quebec will not get the subsidies required to support low-income members of their co-op. Equally disturbing is the fact that co-ops with operating agreements under the Urban Native Housing Program are also excluded. By choosing not to provide rental assistance to these co-ops, the federal government is actively displacing low-income families during a pandemic. Will the minister ensure that the low-income members of these co-ops are supported by making available to them the rental assistance?
We are. What I do know is that we're investing $500 million over 10 years in the Federal Community Housing Initiative that's being implemented in 2 phases. The initiative will protect tenants and stabilize operations of some 55,000 units in
Sorry, I was very specific,
projects.
Minister. I was very specific with my question. And I'm talking
trying to
about
answer the
Section
question.
95 co-ops. Will those ones that have been excluded for rental assistance get the assistance that they need?
I'm trying to answer your question. In light of the COVID-19 pandemic, the launch date for the phase 2 of the Federal Community Housing Initiative was delayed from April to September 1st.
Sorry, Minister.
Ms. Kwan, you're past time. Ms. Kwan, you're past time. Minister, please finish your answer, and then we're going to move on.
Okay. I was very quickly saying that we've made sure that current levels of financial assistance were maintained, and of course, COVID created a bit of a delay, but the work continues. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Kwan. Thank you, Minister. Next, we have Mr. Viss, please, for 5 minutes.
Oh, thank you, Chair. Since I've been appointed as the Shadow Minister for Housing, there's been a near universal message from housing stakeholders that the Housing Co-Investment Fund application process is both very, very challenging to fill out, and I will say a number of Indigenous housing providers have said this too. And secondly, there's not a lot of assurances about the length of time program proponents need to wait to receive an answer. So what can your department do better, Minister, or through CMHC, to improve the application process and improve the unnecessary wait times?
I will, of course, before I defer to Mr. Siddle for this answer, I'll start off by saying that a lot of work has gone into streamlining the process, and that work continues, but it is also fair to say a lot of progress has been made to streamline the process. But there's also a lot of things that other actors can do beyond the federal government. So, for example, what municipal governments do before the application reaches CMHC is also part of the mix. You can see municipality A will fast track and offer incentives and move things along. Municipality B will not do that. So, but in terms of what can be done beyond here, I'll turn to Mr. Siddle.
For a brief answer, please.
I will try to be brief. We have reduced our turnaround times by 50%. We stood this program up extremely quickly, and we got it launched on time. And we have client solution specialists who are supporting folks as well. I'm happy to respond more, but we've sped up what is a very complicated program that requires consultation with provinces and territories, underwriting of loans, confirmation of affordability criteria, greenhouse gas emissions, and accessibility criteria, and we have reduced the turnaround times by 50%.
Thank you. That's sufficient. I will say that the constituents or stakeholders I spoke to were in the last couple of weeks, and they felt that the processing times are still too long, but I do appreciate that answer. And if you'd like to table anything further for all committee members to show that progress, it would be very welcome by the committee. My second question is for the minister. You recently claimed that your government has helped house 1 million families. Would you be able to table a complete breakdown outlining the 1 million families that have been helped? And I ask this question because MP Vaughan was in the newspaper in the Toronto Star in January, where he said that this claim was stretched and that they massaged the numbers a bit. But the committee, I believe, would welcome a complete breakdown of the 1 million families that have been helped. Would you be able to provide that for us, Minister?
Happy to do that. Thank you.
Thank you. My third question relates to the remote homelessness stream, rural and remote homelessness stream under the Reaching Home or homelessness strategy. And your officials told me in my recent briefing that I welcomed that there was $11 million allocated for rural and remote communities, and $55 million over the next 5 years. I represent a riding where there is a lot of rural poverty, and I'm wondering if you think this number is sufficient to address rural homelessness and rural poverty, and what your government can do more of to ensure that people in remote communities get the same types of services that people in urban areas get. Thank you.
I think that you can see by the top up that we made to the regular Reaching Home dollars, the 157.5 million that I referenced earlier, that was additional dollars to the base amount. The same goes for the $236.7 million. So by topping up Reaching Home, but also making it more flexible and increasing the number of communities and increasing the number of providers that we provide financial investments to. That is an indication of our understanding of the need to deal with homelessness wherever it is in Canada. But let me just say one more thing. Rapid Housing Initiative is also open to any community organization or entity or municipality to apply to house homeless individuals permanently.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I will say, I appreciate that answer. And I will say, though, in some of these unincorporated areas, like I'm thinking of Boston Bar in the Fraser Canyon, there is literally nobody there except for me to help them with these applications. And I
understand.
Yeah, I wouldn't.
But the Rapid Housing Initiative is flexible enough to allow places like that to use an intermediary to get the money, either the province or another or a non-profit organization. So they don't have to do the work. They can use an intermediary to do that.
I would say that's easier said than done. Thank you for your questions and answers.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Long, please, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and good evening, colleagues. And Minister, it's certainly good to see you again. And I want to thank you, certainly on behalf of my riding of St. John Rothesay and all Canadians, for the work that you've done and the leadership you've shown, especially during this pandemic when we've faced historic challenges. Minister, my riding is St. John Rothesay. Since I was first elected as Member of Parliament, I've often heard from working parents across the riding about the need for affordable and accessible childcare in our community and across the country. And over the past 5 years, I have also often heard about it from witnesses testifying before this committee. That's why I was pleased to be able to join you earlier today to announce a nearly $10 million federal investment to help improve access to high quality childcare and early learning services in New Brunswick. It's also why I was thrilled to see our government commit to ensure that all Canadian parents have access to affordable, high-quality childcare through the creation of a Canada-wide early learning and childcare system in the speech from the throne. My office has been fielding a lot of questions from excited parents as well as childcare providers in my riding like Heather Hamilton and Aaron Scryer, who are eager to learn more about what this commitment will mean for them and their childcares. Can you tell us what the next steps will be when it comes to implementing this historic commitment?
Thank you very much. I want to thank the honourable member for really bringing up a really important issue that has become even more acute during the COVID-19 pandemic. As our economy recovers, as parents go back to work, they are telling us that childcare is not a luxury, it is a necessity for them. And access to not only affordable childcare, but high quality childcare is of utmost importance. And that is why you saw our government's response during the speech from the throne, stating very clearly and unequivocally that we will do everything that we can to put together a national system of early learning and childcare that is accessible, affordable, and has high quality childcare. But to do that, we would need to work very closely with provinces and territories, as this is an area of provincial jurisdiction, and work with them and build on their investments as well as our investments over the last number of years in early learning and childcare. That includes listening to the stakeholders. It includes finding success stories and trying to replicate them across the country, finding out making the economic case, not just the social case, but the economic case for investment in early learning and childcare. We're committed to making this happen and learn from others, including the province of Quebec, including from our international partners who have done this and who have seen tremendous economic benefits as a result of these investments.
Okay, perfect. And on that subject, Minister, we know that there is not equitable access for many people, especially for Indigenous communities. We know how important it is to have culturally relevant care for Indigenous children, but now more than ever, those providers are facing incredible challenges. You recently announced support for these providers. Could you share additional details with the committee? Thank you.
Absolutely. We wanted to make sure that as a government, we're paying attention to the safe restart of the Indigenous early learning and childcare centers. That is why I was pleased to join the Prime Minister as well as Minister Miller to announce $120 million investment in Indigenous early learning and childcare as part of the safe restart of Indigenous early learning and childcare centers. And this builds on our, of course, previous investments that are ongoing as part of the $1.7 billion investment to set up a national Indigenous early learning and childcare framework agreements that we've signed with First Nations, with Inuit and Métis nations. So the $120 million is COVID-19 related, and it is to enable them to retool and readjust their operations as well as their infrastructure to meet the new health requirements as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic.
Thank you, Minister. Thank you, Mr. Long. Suite, c'est le tour de Madame Chabot.
Next, it is Ms. Chabot's turn for 3.5 minutes. 2.5 minutes, rather. Oh. Ms. Chabot, oh, you corrected yourself. I was going to have 1 extra minute. But I will ask the same question again about Service Canada. My question was the following. You answered that you did have over 200,000 offices open. My question is, what we went through with the closures in the first wave meant that it was difficult or semi-disastrous for citizens. And now again, not all offices and mobile services have reopened. So my question is the following. Have you planned for a budget to ensure human resources and financial resources so they will be available in case we find ourselves in an even more difficult situation, to make sure that Service Canada mobile offices will be open?
Mr. Chair, I'll defer to Ms. Laurie MacDonald for this question.
Donald?
Okay, I'm off mute now. Thank you very much for the question, Mr. Chair. To reframe the answer I gave previously, we do have 285 offices of 317 open. We do have the funding to do so, and we do have the staff available to do so. What's holding up the final offices opening are finalizing contracts for cleaning, for installation of plexiglass, and for commissionaires from a security perspective. All of those are underway right now as we finalize the opening of those centers. We do have that for this year, and we do have that funding for next year, and we do anticipate having all of this completed by early January.
20 seconds pour...
20 seconds for a short question and response. Do you have the funds to reopen 100% of the offices and mobile offices?
Yes, we have the funds to open up all of the offices.
Merci, Madame Chabot. Thank you, Ms. McDonald. Next, we have Ms. Kwan. Minutes.
I'm going to turn my question to Mr. Siddall. I'm sure he understands what I'm talking about when I say that the Section 95 housing co-ops whose operating agreements expire prior to April 1st, 2016 are not getting their rental assistance. My question to him then is he aware of any plans to ensure that low-income members actually get the resources that they need?
There are...
Mr. Chair, actually, I can answer that because this came up earlier. On co-ops, we did, those agreements lapsed under the previous government, and we did transfer money. We transferred funds to provinces and territories to fund the former agreement.
Sorry, Mr. Siddall, could you answer my question too, please?
I think the minister's answered it.
Sorry, are you telling me that those co-ops whose operating agreements expire prior to April 2016 are getting rental assistance?
I think through various programs they are. If your question is with respect to continuation of operating agreements, no, those have expired. We don't have any evidence that people have lost housing as a result of that, however.
Well, I have a number of co-ops who is actually on the cusp of losing their housing right now. I'd be happy to bring this to the officials' attention and to the minister's attention, because at this moment, they're actually going to be displaced in the middle of a pandemic.
Well, we'll certainly find a way to help them through existing programs.
Okay, when you say existing programs, so that is to say that the existing programs will provide for rental assistance for those who would not be able to get their operating agreements renewed?
It would be irresponsible to be that specific. What we will do is we will work with them, as we already do, to make sure that through various funding sources, ourselves, provinces and territories, that people are not displaced, which I think is our shared objective.
Yeah, and that funding from municipalities and the stuff that's been cobbled together is coming to an end. And that's the reality. I am receiving a lot of letters from co-op members who are freaked out about this situation because their low-income members are in fact going to be displaced. So I'm happy to continue this conversation with you, Mr. Siddall, on this. On the question around the throne speech, the throne speech made a commitment that now chronic homelessness would be reduced altogether. So if human right is going to be respected in terms of the housing needs, when does the minister expect that this would be achieved? Is there a timeline and a target?
Short answer, please, Minister.
It's a combination of things, as you know, Ms. Kwan. It is using the National Housing Strategy, using Rapid Housing Initiative, Reaching Home, working with our partners, making sure that we encourage more private sector investments. There's no one solution. We have to do everything, and other levels of government have to step up. But we are doing what we can. And remember, our target used to be 50% reduction of chronic homelessness. We're going for 100% because we've made so much progress.
Thank you, Mr. Minister, and thank you, Ms. Kwan. Next, we have Mr. Viss, please, for 5 minutes.
I'm going to pass my time to MP Schmale. I wasn't aware I was having another round.
We'll have a full 2 hours. We're going to do 2 more. Your 5 minutes, and then the final 5 minutes, and then we're able to adjourn. We were able to extend a little bit thanks to the accommodation of the good professionals here at the House. Go ahead, Mr. Schmale, 5 minutes.
Okay, thank you, Chair, and thank you, Mr. Viss, for transferring over. In terms, I'm going to go to Mr. Siddall if I could. I want to talk about access to information requests. A number of my colleagues have submitted a number of requests about that, and I believe it's quite frustrated your organization. Can you tell us why shouldn't you be willing to provide that information to MPs that put in requests?
Which organization? Are you talking about CMHC?
Yes, I am.
Through the chair, I'll respond that we've responded in time to all requests by MPs and, to my knowledge, to all requests by other people.
Now, well, from what I hear, you have indicated very curtly, if you will, that you do have an issue with MPs submitting requests, especially when there are so many coming at you requesting certain information. Do you know how many ATIPs you have outstanding at this moment, by any chance?
I actually don't have that information at hand, but I'm happy to provide it to you.
Yeah, that would be actually quite handy. Thank you very much for that. Maybe I'll just quickly pivot right to the minister, back to what he said about childcare, if I could. Yes. Minister, when you were talking about your childcare program, minus what the plan is for Indigenous communities, are you going to allow choice and the most amount of options available for parents, or will this be a one-size-fits-all government program?
It will not be a one-size-fit-all government program, simply because we're not even there yet. We have to talk to provinces and territories. We have to talk to stakeholders. We have to talk to experts, get the evidence, talk to our international partners, talk to the province of Quebec, learn about how they did it. What were some of the initial challenges that they faced, and what are some of the successes that they encountered right away after making these investments? So what you heard from the speech in the speech from the throne was a statement of intent and ambition. Now we got to get the work done.
So if I understand correctly, I'm a bit based on your answer. We've seen this since 1993. We've seen then every election going forward, and of course, when you lost in 2006, the current Conservative government, or the previous Conservative government, brought in its own child care, which allowed parents to have $100 per child under the age of 6 given to them. You've enhanced the program, to your credit, you have. So for the parents that need child care now, so think if you have a child around 1993, whether it was born or not, or somewhere around there, that child would be way past the option for daycare by the time the government actually got around to it. And I do agree that you will have to put a plan in place. So for the parents that need help now, wouldn't it be better just to avoid yet another government program, or a plan to make a plan to maybe have a government program? Wouldn't it be better just to continue giving more money to parents?
Well, to my honorable colleague, I don't want to go down the road of history, and I think neither of us were in elected office at the time. But it is, if you're going to go down there, it's also important to put it into proper context. The Liberal government at the time was trying to actually put an affordable national program, and it was the Conservatives who were joined by the NDP, and they killed that.
But look how long that took. Program. That took over a decade. So now you're going to go down this path again for another decade?
Well,
it would be a lot quicker, to your credit, to your government's credit, to continue on with allowing parents to have more money in their pocket and the maximum amount of choices. Basically, enhancing our freedoms, not controlling our behavior through another government program or the tax code.
I don't think it's about controlling behavior. I think it's a philosophical difference that we have. You believe in giving money and then washing your hands off of it. We believe in maintaining quality. It's not just about access.
But government control doesn't necessarily equal quality.
It's not,
and nor does cost, nor does outcomes. If you think childcare is expensive now, wait till the government gets its hands on it.
I think that the parents who benefit from the more affordable childcare system in Quebec would disagree with you a lot on that, and we have to learn about what works. Why is it that other countries can do this and we are not able to do that?
But you allow competition within the marketplace. That's how you do it.
Thank you, Mr. Schmale. Okay, for the final about 4 minutes, Mr. Vaughan, please.
Thank you. And I guess a couple of things. One, on page 19 of the throne speech, and I can read it directly, it says that we're going to build strong communities by investing. I'll knock out the whole list of public transit energy retrofits, but it explicitly says, and building affordable housing, particularly for Indigenous people in northern communities. Is that not the language that Member Kwan was looking for in terms of a commitment in the throne speech to build Indigenous housing in urban, rural, and northern spaces?
Yes, it is. And it shows that it is a priority for our government, and that statement of intent and ambition is a clear sign that our government wants to put in place a national strategy for northern, urban, and remote Indigenous housing, and make sure that we address this.
And in terms of the lapsed housing agreements that she refers to that disappeared under the Conservative government prior to our being elected, the new Canada Housing Benefit, funds which have been transferred, in particular to the province of British Columbia, they can be used to provide subsidies. And has the British Columbia government used those monies yet?
Absolutely. In fact, I had run out of time earlier. I was going to actually mention that the Canada Housing Benefit is a game changer, and it is portable, and it can absolutely be used by individuals who find themselves in housing need and who previously enjoyed those subsidies under the previous agreements that were cancelled by the previous government. So,
and we have a 10-year agreement with the British Columbia government. Have they started to spend those housing subsidies yet?
Yes, they have.
Good. And in terms of the concerns about rural homelessness, for the first time since 1989, our government, during the COVID epidemic, expanded the designated communities program and picked up 6 new rural communities. Were any of those in BC?
Oh, absolutely. Abbotsford was one of them, and a number of other British Columbia communities. So, and that's what I was referring to in my previous answer. I ran out of time, but we expanded the communities because we know that homelessness is also a reality in rural Canada, in places that are growing like Abbotsford and Kamloops and places like Kenora. So those communities are now included in a much expanded list, and additional dollars that we've made flexible so that communities can respond in a very robust long-term way. And now with the Rapid Housing Initiative, we'll ensure that $1 billion can be accessed by communities that have rapid housing solutions to.
And Mr. Viss also identified Alberta as a place where no co-investment funds have been announced. I was sent by you to Calgary on January 15th and announced a $48.5 million block investment into the Calgary housing system to, in fact, build new housing. And also we forwarded seed dollars to help bring forward applications to that co-investment fund. But Calgary actually got block funding of $48.5 million, did they not?
Correct. Yes, they did. And other, not only that, there's many other projects that we've been able to announce in Alberta, even during COVID-19 pandemic.
And thank you, Mr. Minister, and thank you, Mr. Vaughan. Mr. Minister, and to your team, thank you so much for being with us. Mr. Kent, we were able to get the House of Commons folks to shorten up their time and to push back a bit so that we got the full 2 hours. So I want to offer a big thank you to our clerk and to the House of Commons folks that support us, that allowed us to push the envelope a little bit.
Thanks, Chair.
But the envelope is at its limit, and that's all the time we have. So thank you, colleagues. We'll see you next week. We are adjourned.